What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. With the stat rework coming in Pokemon Go, there has been a new set of Pokemon that have become better than what they were before. And that could be for a multitude of reasons. Maybe the HP got increased, or maybe it was a Pokemon that had incredible defensive stats, and now it will be able to shine because of it. But in today's episode, I figured we would go ahead and talk about 5 Pokemon known as Glass Cannons that will benefit from the stat rework system, specifically talking about HP. These Pokemon are already incredible Pokemon, have high attack stats, but the only thing that's held it back is the ability to not stay in the fight. But with this stat rework, it is definitely going to be in a positive direction. But with that being said, let's get into the list. These Pokemon are not in any particular order. Number 5. Breloom, max CP of 2,628. Breloom is a dual type Pokemon of grass and fighting type. So when we are talking about Breloom, the first thing that we need to do is go ahead and talk about the stats. Because basically what happens is Breloom always gets compared to something like a Machamp, so let's go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison. When you are talking about the attack stat, Breloom actually has the advantage. But then when you take a look at the defense, Breloom is definitely falling as well in the stamina department. So basically, as long as this buff ends up getting Breloom to the point where it can get off a couple extra moves, it's very possible that Breloom could outperform Machamp. Having said that, if you are curious about the ideal moveset, it is going to be Counter and Dynamic Punch. It's the same thing for Machamp. So let's go ahead and take a look at some results versus a Tyranitar, where the fighting type will be super effective. So go ahead and check that out. Machamp is in at first place at 318 seconds, while Breloom falls only briefly behind by about 5 seconds, but the biggest discrepancy is the number of feints involved. But if Breloom can lower that number because of the HP buff, I would honestly argue that Breloom could be very much neck and neck with Machamp, and something that I am personally very excited about to see if Breloom can take over the number 1 spot. Number 4. Alakazam, with a max CP of 3,057, Alakazam is a pure Psychic type Pokemon. This is the definition of a Glass Cannon, but with the recent HP rework, I am so hopeful that Alakazam will become more effective. If you are curious about the stats, basically what's happening is it has an incredible attack stat. Of course, it is short of something like a Mewtwo from the Psychic typing. Its defense stat is okay, but its stamina stat is absolute garbage. But with this buff, it has moved up a little bit, which should translate to more DPS. If you are curious about the ideal moveset, there's actually 2 routes that you can go. If you want to counter against Psychic type Pokemon, you want to have Shadow Ball. Or if you want to use it as a Psychic type attacker, you need to use Confusion and Future Sight. So in this example, we are going to take a look at a Machamp attacking from the Psychic typing. So as you will see, Mewtwo is in at the number 1 spot, beating it by about 8 seconds or so. And then once again, the discrepancy is the number of feints, Alakazam at 5 feints. But it is very possible that with this rework, you could end up seeing 1 less feint, and because there is 1 less feint, the transition time is less, so Alakazam could end up cutting the gap into Mewtwo, making it one of the best Psychic type attackers from a non-legendary perspective. Number 3. Gengar, with a max CP of 2,878. This is by far my favorite ghost type Pokemon in the game. But having said that, this is a much needed buff for Gengar. Go ahead and check out the stats. Once again, a very high attack stat at 261. But as you will see, the stamina and defense were lacking, but either way, because of the floor increasing it, Gengar will become more effective than it ever has been in the past. If you are curious about the ideal moveset, you do want Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball. Unfortunately though, Shadow Claw is a legacy move, so instead you would use Hex if you do not have access to it. But the reason why we show Shadow Claw all the time is because the DPS is insane. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those results. Versus a Mewtwo, this will showcase the biggest issue. If you go ahead and check out the number of feints, for Gengar it is 60 feints, and then up next is Mewtwo at 39 feints. So basically people opted out to not use that Gengar because it feints just so many times. But for me personally, I think with this buff, Gengar will be able to last a little bit longer, and if you include some dodging in it as well, Gengar could become that much more of an effective choice. Number 2. Deoxys with a max AP of 3,160. Deoxys is a pure psychic type Pokemon, the epitome of a glass cannon. Unfortunately, it got written off as completely useless, but because of the HP rework, there is some hope for Deoxys. Let's go ahead and take a look at Deoxys normal form stats. Go ahead and check it out. That attack stat of 345 is absolutely daunting, the highest in the game. The only issue is that stamina and defense stat, but there are other forms that will get the stats shaken up a little bit, so I'm very interested to see, for instance, how the speed form will perform. Other than that, if we go ahead and take a look at the ideal moveset, you could go with Zen Headbutt and Thunderbolt for the highest DPS, or you could go with an all psychic type for stab to get Zen Headbutt and Psycho Boost. Just know that Psycho Boost is a very bad moveset, so Thunderbolt can outperform it even when Psychic is super effective. Let's go ahead and take a look at the raid results. This will be once again versus a Machamp, but as you will see, it opts to use Thunderbolt instead of Psycho Boost. And at the number 9 spot, it could easily close the gap between Lugia and Latios. Covering Gardevoir would be much harder to do, but with this HP buff, Deoxys could be that much easier to stomach. I would personally recommend still dodging, but any help in the HP department is gonna be useful. Number 1. Kingler. With a max AP of 2,829, Kingler is a pure water type Pokemon. So basically with this, the reason why we brought up Kingler in this case is it's kind of up in the air, because there is one discrepancy that Kingler needs to happen to become a awesome water type attacker. But first things first, we'll talk about the stats of why that is possible. As you check it out, you will see the attack and the defense are actually pretty solid, the attack stat being the highest, and then when you check out that stamina, it's absolute garbage. But with the increase in the HP, it could be a little bit more useful. But the only issue right now is that as far as the moveset is concerned, Kingler has a bad charge move, Water Pulse, but there is hope with the move Crabhammer. If Crabhammer ends up getting a higher DPS than Water Pulse, it could propel it to the top 5 from a water type standpoint. That is kind of the reason why I left it on last, just because we have to wait and see for Crabhammer to get added in, whether or not Kingler will become better because of it. But if you go ahead and take a look at the stats right now, you will see that Kingler is clearly far behind Venusaur, Gyarados, Kyogre versus a Golem. It's no close contest whatsoever. So we have to cross our fingers for a new moveset for Kingler. If that gets added in, it could easily become a very good water type attacker. So that just about wraps up the video. I want to go ahead and end on a question of the day. Out of these 5 Pokemon, which is the one that you are most excited about? Is it Gengar? Is it Alakazam? Or is it one of the others? Definitely let me know in the comment section below. If you do enjoy this type of content, I highly recommend you to subscribe to the channel. I'll definitely be covering more topics like this, including Generation 4 Pokemon. But with that being said, I will see you next time.